would not have done it if he told me that one day at the end of last year, this guy does puppy of us. I'm like, oh my God. That actually was literally like, I'm like, she's right. You know?
It just, it was
10 to 10:30.
Yeah. And it was really the perfect time. It was a cold, quiet winter. I didn't sit on the desk. It actually worked out.
well, Tracy, you were able to get your head to work too.
I only missed the week of work. It was awesome.
Sam, is the top of that microphone red or green?
Yeah.
It's red, so.
It was actually the perfect time. As a matter of fact, I'll be back up to New York on
Yeah,
Thursday. Chestnut.
I just had my 1 year. He's like, okay, I'll see you in a year. Okay.
Isn't that great?
It's amazing. Amazing. We were bike riding and walking.
Not really.
I haven't stopped sitting. I'm working on the hospital. Sitting for 6 hours.
John says 10:30.
You know what, it's fine, because I'm not going to record from here anyway. I'm just working on my.
Yeah, 2 meetings? 10:15.
Good thing we didn't.
I would be in Shrewsbury
Yeah.
until 10, so I can get back in 15 minutes. He said he would move it to 10:30, that's where I left it.
Oh, I'll give you one.
He said that somebody was coming in, he was holding it up a little bit, so that's fine.
749.
Did you see my email? The radio station coming tomorrow. 1 o'clock.
Yes, I see that.
I don't know if you can make it.
I just figured I'd let you.
1 o'clock.
Yeah, they'll be coming in a white truck.
797.
Yeah.
It'll be called Hermetic White. 137 is the name. And,
685.
Okay, all right.
if you're around.
I'm gonna see if I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was, I'm gonna be working probably until noon time, maybe 11:30, we're trying to.
I just wanted to check out the logistics of this, we're coming to highlight houses.
Yeah, kick off this summer, small business.
Sam, will you press that
This Jeep goes from town to town to celebrate small business. Yeah, it's good stuff, it's really good stuff.
I've obviously, maybe one of the houses.
Anybody you know of, send it.
Jeff, how are you?
Right, how are you?
The other, somebody's going to I'm going to get caught up on there's a special name in legislation. This time, I guess I'm not really I think it was on social media. I think
Thank you so much.
I haven't. I don't know where it's got from. I can remember.
No, this stuff works. Greg had to promote in and we're.
Then it's a matter of so the general
I'm controlling it first
I
laptop.
know that
I
it's
can't
only
control
to
it.
Mark. Okay, thank you.
It's working with the mouse and the keyboard.
The mouse is not.
And either the keyboard. Find the parties so you get both the battery side on both at the same time.
We've had this conversation. I was
You know, that was
I just have it on.
I don't know what.
Now I don't
know.
Except
I
that.
just wanted my face.
When I turn this one,
We're trying.
when I hit it that way, I go late.
The parking lot.
Then it goes off. The battery.
I was wondering if I was working on that.
you put batteries in both of them around the same time.
Is that just?
So do you have to?
What's that? I really don't have to.
Bags. What do you need?
I don't know, depends on the cars.
Take notes and record.
It's a navigator, or is it on the Civic?
Technology.
What?
Technology is a wonderful thing
Yeah.
when it works.
Yeah, no, we're it's gonna be busy.
What rules do we have against people vending on the parking lots? Is that one guy over here? He's selling
Oh, the trunk dude?
You gave him food. Where's his?
This isn't coffee.
He's gone now. You threw out earlier.
Different place.
He's gone.
And I mixed some good coffee with me.
He says he's in business now.
There you go.
Looking into it. Hold on. And he should get business parking passes. I don't know why. I don't know what the thing was bottom, and it wasn't necessarily, it was a different what he's selling. But, I mean, if you start doing it, somebody comes along and sells t-shirts. No, we'll just keep it in. I don't know why he got, and then Joanne let us sit there all day, it's 2 days yesterday.
I got
No, I wanted to put that when it came up. So I emailed it to everybody. Oh, thanks.
That's in the
These two things, if I don't know when Mark's coming in, these are not on the agenda. These are two special events things. These are two special event things. Oh, the other one is something that Perspiration wanted to use the bathroom. Special events didn't want to approve it. Council.
biting my tongue.
Why it has to be done at the same that proper summer will be over by the next year. Yeah, I don't think that, he said, send it to council, Mark, did a special event. So these are them, they're not on the agenda because you can bring them up if you want.
The same thing, because all the truck fans would be out and I'm saying out all. And then people would have that. That's unfortunately the nature of our situation.
That's the problem.
After a while. Middle of the road person. You are right. Because they had these huge swings. These were paying attention. Neutral corners. And that's your fault.
But the ADC gives you that authority. You don't have that authority.
You've been on vacation for a while.
To anybody else.
Yeah, everything is good. I have one report. Thanks for asking, but I don't think they're all. Thanks, Roger.
Hi. Hold on a second. Yeah, well, they should just understand that the town has, the town has the right to limit it as much as they want, like 75% of our percentage voted for this, so So,
Let's go short. Look at
hey,
Little man?
hello, John. Nice to be back.
Yeah, he's.
How you are?
Born in Sussex.
Yeah.
On business today, tomorrow.
How you doing?
No, I'm doing the remotely tonight. I couldn't get back in time. That was nice. Last weekend we had a little mini vacation so far. It was nice.
Is this the first meeting there?
No, we've had a few now. We had a workshop, we had a council meeting. I was like, I think this is our third.
Have to try to get over there.
20th, please. And Michael was interested in So you guys all right? Ready to go, Joe?
Yes.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for dialing into tonight's council meeting. Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is now called to order. In line with the Borough of Seabright City Compliance with the Open Meetings Act, I wish to advise that adequate notice of this regularly scheduled meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press and local newspapers on January 4, 2021. In each instance, the date, time, and location of this meeting were provided in the notice. This meeting is open to the public. Roll call. Councilor Berthold.
Here.
Booker.
Here.
Helena.
Here.
Dylan. Tommy.
Here.
Lexi.
Here.
And Mayor Preston. All right, first up will be remarks from the audience, and I do want to ask that anyone who wants to speak to the two ordinances regarding cannabis, you'll have an opportunity when we read the ordinance, so you can, if you want to hold your comments to them, it might work out better. But aside from that, anyone on the call that can hear, you have up to 3 minutes to address the governing body. Please state your name and address it. Floor is yours.
I have some questions. This is John Schwartz, 24 Longview Way. I was wondering if we had an update on three things. The bulkhead traffic ordinance and what's going on with the habits in Manhattan?
Well, Joe, we can make this up. I mean, with Mad Hatter, it's pretty straightforward. They're on the abandoned properties list, so as the process goes along, they still have an opportunity to restart the project. Otherwise, it's in motion and it's on that list. I believe the Class 6 ordinance is in effect now, correct, Joe?
Yes, sir.
And you want to comment on the bulkhead? What specific area of the bulkhead? You mean any damaged ones or any ones that need to repair?
Yeah, I was wondering if we had sent any letters or made any progress to get people to fix the bulkheads.
So Mayor, we just awarded that contract at the last council meeting for CME, and just asked Joe. Joe says doesn't know when they're going to be going out, but they should be going out soon. So there's your answer, John.
And that's the initial inspection.
Right, that's the initial inspection.
And it's forwarded to us.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, John. Anybody else going to call to be heard?
We have someone here, Mayor.
Okay.
Michael Schmento, Sands Beach Club. I'm actually here speaking on behalf, with their approval, of Chippewa and Surfrider as well. Over the years, we've had issues of pedestrian bicycle traffic coming through our parking lots. In the off-season, obviously, a non-issue. It has been a particularly dangerous issue for us with the pedestrians, bicycles, skateboards, electrical, whatevers. First and foremost, it is an element of private property. But what ends up happening is you have people going the wrong way of flow of traffic, in and out of our entrances and exits, and showing to all of us minimal regard for other cars and other our customers. We have had first aid calls. We ended up in a courtroom because someone came off the splash pad the wrong way through traffic of Ship Ahoy's parking lot. They crashed into the fence that separates us and Ship Ahoy, and they sued us. And while we prevailed in court, we had to spend $1,000 to have an attorney represent us. I don't know what more can be done. Chief and I have had conversations about this. I guess I'm just prevailing upon you for any kind of help, be it social media, be it anything. We don't want an unsafe situation. We don't want to erect permanent structures. We would really just like an element of regard for safety from our fellow residents and tourists.
What's happening? They're coming down the splash pad and just going straight into the parking lot?
Coming right through Dow's parking lot, going around either side of our fence, through our parking lot, but they're also, and then continuing on into Surfrider. Right. But they're going in both directions, and they're going in and out of the exits, entrances. Sometimes they cross at a crosswalk, sometimes they don't. But you're talking about at times people going the wrong way through traffic. Cars are backing up. They do not see a bicycle coming 20 miles an hour the wrong way, as well as people not paying attention and crashing into various fencing, parking bumpers, whatever, and it becomes a very big safety hazard on all ends.
I see the chief is here, and I know you want to say something.
So I've been out there with Mike before, and I know we've talked about this, and we've actually taken in that splash pad right there, literally barricaded the entire thing off so no one can actually pass through it. And I will tell you, they will go right around onto the private property, right back into the parking lot. So even though we can put barricades, cars, you name it, we've had on the end of that splash pad. It goes on, they come onto the private property part, as Michael will tell you.
I'm on an earlier meeting, but I'm not really on it. I'm just,
We can hear you.
Hello. So.
Yes, please keep your phone, whoever's giving us a static there.
Keep it muted.
So it is kind of challenging, that area. We've been out there with Mike, with all the beach clubs, with Jack has seen it before, so Jack knows what we're talking about. So if anybody has a better suggestion to come out of that splash pad, to come out of the private property, We've tried.
Is it mostly a problem on weekends?
No, it's 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
And like I said, in season is when it's an issue. Off season, we don't want to
Of course.
block everything up, even though we're not, it's not a public right of way. But we're just, it's relatively harmless in the off season.
Is a possibility to potentially get a special to maybe stand there during the summer?
The problem is that we have so much bicycle traffic from basically 6 a.m. until 9, 10 o'clock tonight. I'd have to literally station someone there almost 15 hours a day.
Right.
The amount of traffic on that splash pad. But at the end of the day, people are really just riding bicycles to get down that way to avoid Ocean Avenue. So if I take them off there, they're going to funnel back onto the avenue. So I'm not really 100%, which is probably the best way to do
The
it.
big issue we have there is that the only pedestrian traffic avenue that we have in that area is the sidewalk on the east side of Ocean Avenue. The problem is when you get to that, if you want to go over to the splash pad from that side, there is no access from the end of the splash pad to that sidewalk on the east side of Ocean Avenue, unless they go through the last beach club's property to get to that crossing, which is in the middle of which is going from that property's parking lot across the street to the parking lot across the street. So there is no other way to get there. The only other option that we have is to go stay on the east side of Ocean Avenue, all the way down to the power station down there, and cross the water, the nearest walk there. Because from there on out, if you're talking about public property, private property, it's all private property. From the end of that splash pad up to the power station that's up there about halfway down, that's all private property. So I mean, we couldn't build a sidewalk that crosses across there unless we took some of the property. So I mean, I don't really see a solution to this, to be honest.
So essentially, in a situation like this, our private property is de facto public? That's what I don't understand.
No, the problem is, I mean, then you have the same issue where we're pushing those people into the street with traffic that's going 60 miles an hour as opposed to cars that are going 10 or 5 or 10 miles an hour in the parking lot. Not for nothing, I'd rather, if I was one of those people, I'd rather get hit by a car going 5 miles an hour than one with 50.
But as the property owner who would want to end up in a courtroom, I prefer that not to happen.
I realize that's private property, we don't want to do that.
Yes, look, we're not going to
Just real quick, if I can say something, just in the past couple of years with the amount of vehicular traffic on Ocean Avenue, the sheer amount of bicycles going down Ocean Avenue now everywhere, it's like I've never seen more bicycles and electric bicycles everywhere. It's just, that's how people are traveling. They're going on bicycles through Seagrams. It's the fastest
Chief,
easiest way.
there's got to be some solution. So we're not going to resolve it right now. So why don't we talk and figure it out? And I know Jack, we had brought this up earlier, I guess last year you brought it up. And Mayor, if it's okay, I'm willing to sit with Jack and the Chief and Mike and try to figure, and the other beach club owners try to figure it out.
We'd love to talk it out.
I'll join you. I would suggest something similar, so I'll join you guys at that meeting so you know what it is. And I'll be part of it also.
Thanks, Mayor.
Guys, thank you very much. You just want to talk it out and find a safe solution for everybody.
There's got to be.
I agree. I wasn't.
No, we're good. We're good.
I'm being devil's advocate. That's all.
Totally understand. I certainly respect
I
that.
completely agree.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Susie Marks, 1187 Ocean Avenue. I'm one of those people on the bike that rides in the parking lot, so I can really speak to this. It's true, it's all terrifying. That part of Ocean Avenue is terrifying to ride on. Those parking lots are terrifying to go through. But getting through them does seem safer than San Ocean Avenue, which is why I do. I mean, that being said, people are backing out constantly. They gotta go very slow, your head has to be on a swivel. The only possible solution when you're going through there, and I don't even think there's enough room on Ocean Avenue, that whole, 2 miles there, maybe if you put cones, and the bike path is literally, the shoulder is that big there. Maybe if you put cones on the, inside of that and sort of make cars aware of that, people would be more aware to ride out there, but, I honestly, I can't imagine there's a solution. I would never choose to go on Ocean Avenue there if I had a choice. And the barriers you're talking about, you put a barrier at the end of Ocean Avenue, of course, or at the end of the splash pad, anybody's gonna ride around that. You can't lock it up, so.
The sad fact is, it's a state highway.
Right.
So, the sad fact is, it's gonna take the state, it's gonna take someone to get hit and killed on that road for the state to put in a bike lane. And when the state puts in a bike lane, they're gonna be taking private property to do so. So, we have to let everybody know that it's a dangerous situation over there. And unfortunately, we're kind of tied.
Well, let's hope we don't have to wait for someone to get
Let's
killed.
hope not.
And let's figure it out. There's always a solution if people put their minds together.
Thank you. Anyone else want to be heard?
Mayor Erwin Beaver, 12 Tradelands Lane. Can we get an update on what the status of the school realignment is? What's happening in that area?
Do you have a address?
Mayor, I can speak to it. We were told by Senator Sweeney's office that the legislation is set to be voted on Monday, if it's not pulled.
But by the Assembly.
Yes, by the Assembly. And hopefully out of the Senate by the end of June, if possible.
So if I could follow up, what action, Joe, do we have at that point, and who's leading it for us?
Well, the action would be that at that point, it enables any municipalities in the state of New Jersey, not just Seabright or Highlands or Atlantic Highlands, to put together a plan to merge their school districts. Our plan has been in place at least for 2 years now. So the next step would be public meetings, public hearings on it in all 3 municipalities. And then it would be a vote by all 3 municipalities to move forward with the plan. The legislation is helpful. The new legislation is helpful in that regard because prior to this piece of legislation, you were only allowed to vote on that 1 time a year at a special election. This allows you to vote 5 times a year, 4 during the school board's normal 4 times a year elections and a general election. So this year it would give us, if it passes in June, it would give us an optimum time to test our people and find out what they would like to do in the November general election after several public hearings.
Okay, just to follow up, I mean, this is such an important issue for this town from a tax-based perspective. Is there a task force in place here in town with somebody leading it for us?
Well, you've had that. You're on it, Jack. Engineer Keeler is on it.
Education committee?
Yes. President Booker is on it. So we have not necessarily a task force, but a council committee that will put together the scope and the agenda for our residents to take a look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Erwin. Would any of us like to be heard?
Lynn Shapiro, 22 River Reed Place. I just wondered if there was an update on the farmer's market.
We're working on it.
Sorry, what was the question?
She wanted an update on the farmer's market. It's being worked on.
Yes.
That's the answer. It's being worked on.
So, Morgan, is it?
I actually had conversations with one of the vendors just very recently, and it's being worked on.
Is there a start date?
No, we don't have a start date yet.
Would anyone else like to be heard?
Yes, Chris Doxey, 9 Church Street in Seabright. Getting back to the Mad Hatter, I know that it's on the list, or going on the list for abandoned property, but
It's on the list.
It's on the list.
It's on the list.
Okay, good. But in the meantime, who's responsible for buttoning it up, cleaning it up, and making it look a lot better, or a little better even? Anybody?
The property owner is responsible and remains responsible.
And
Still owned by the property owner. It's the property owner's responsibility to clean it up. I know as recently as yesterday, they were served a new notice by the code enforcement officer to take certain action.
Okay, so they're aware of that?
Oh, yeah.
Do they have a drop dead date at which point?
Well, I think the notice from the code enforcement officer, I think, gave them 7 days to take certain action. But the abandoned properties list that's a process. It's on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a legal process.
I read the information on that, yeah.
You know, that has to, and it is moving forward. There's a limited amount that we could do at this point. We continue to ask the property owner to at least take minimal actions to clean it up and button it up, but
And
so far,
they
to
continue
no avail.
to ignore it.
Continually.
And this is another summer, yet another season.
No
So what
question
happens
about
if they don't comply?
So the abandoned properties ordinance ultimately gets to the point where you can give the property to somebody else to clean it up. And that's why we're engaged in that process.
Can you?
It's the only remedy available. We cannot go onto that property on our own and fix it up. I mean, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we don't have that right.
We don't.
Do we have a bond? Do they have a bond with the town?
Their bond deals with the project that they had approved. So they posted a performance bond.
Right.
And the borough actually took the cash that they had posted with the town and used it to construct the sidewalk, reconstruct the sidewalk.
Right. And
So, the bonding company is, at this point, is not responsible for the situation at this point because of where we are in the legal process. So you
Is there
can't
anything
force,
left in-
the bonding company to finish the job.
so we're sitting here and they're just riding along and just ignoring the building, and it's a horrible sight. I was at Rory's the other night and I looked over. I actually changed my chair so I wouldn't have to look at it.
Chris, we agree with you. And, I mean, we're doing what we can do.
Right. There has to be another way.
But
You just can't.
there
see it.
isn't. If there was, we would do it.
So they have 7 days to do this, and then what if they don't? Like, what's the next step?
Well, as Mr. Lexington said, ultimately, the borough can take control of that property and turn it over to somebody to finish the project or redevelop it in some way. But we have to go through the process, and we're doing it. It's time consuming, and it's procedurally rife with all different things that can be done. They filed an initial appeal. We had a hearing with the construction official. They now have the right to appeal at the Superior Court. We're going to have to go through that process before we can get to the point of taking control of the property.
And that's a state-created process. It's not our process. So we're stuck in it. And it's complicated on purpose.
Well, it is, because obviously the state is not going to, nor would we want the state to make it easy to take private property. I mean, it's,
I understand that. That
this
makes
is a particularly egregious situation, and I think we all agree with you on that, but the best we can do is follow the process, so that's what we're doing.
And it's lengthy.
I'm sorry?
It's lengthy. It's a
Oh, yeah,
lengthy
it's
process.
And it's not only the fact that, the courts have been closed essentially for 15 months, so everything is backed up, nothing's going to happen quickly.
Thanks, guys. Anybody else like to be heard tonight? All right, so we move on to our consent agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the items on this consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second, Mark, can I ask a question? For the renewal of the 2021-22 liquor license, it has the Mad Hatter included for next year's liquor license. Can we not approve that, depending on their cleanup situation? Can we hold that out?
Okay.
Can I make a motion to pull that?
What we can do,
Mayor?
we can, what we can do is, we'd be permitted to do that, but it pretty much goes against what we've already agreed to at prior meetings, that, while we're pursuing the abandoned properties list, we're also keeping the liquor license alive. So, it's up to the governing body, of course, but I know Mark made a motion, and then Sam, you want to make
I just asked if we could pull it instead of approving their next year liquor license.
Just essentially pull that and vote on it separately, Mayor. I believe that's what he's asking.
But if we do that, what is the impact of the license? If we do we lose it? Or
Only if the general consensus of the council is no. not to renew that, then we would, if we don't renew the license, then we would lose that.
Well, if you ultimately don't renew it, yes, you would lose it. But, I mean, right now it's an inactive license, and it's gonna remain an inactive license for the foreseeable future.
So by not renewing it, we still hold it. It still exists. It's not really tied to this organization.
It technically still exists, because the application for renewal will still be pending. There is a deadline of several months. I can't remember what it is. So I don't. The problem is this. You know, as a practical matter, I understand the desire not to renew it because it's doing something for a property owner that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But as a practical matter, as Mr. Lexi said, if that property is going to be developed for what it was approved to be, it's going to require a liquor license. So at the end of the day, if the council doesn't want to renew it, doesn't want to lose the license, which we've discussed and you have said you do not want to lose it, you might as well just go ahead and renew it because you want it to stay there and you want it to be available for somebody, whether it's a purchaser, whether it's them, whether it's somebody ultimately that you decide to assign it to if we go through the abandoned property.
It doesn't have to be at that site either.
No, it can be transferred. It still remains an active license.
Yeah, that's right. We've discussed that in the past too, and that's why I thought we were in agreement on this prior, but Mark, what's your comment?
No, Mayor, I agree with you, and that's why the council voted to renew it last time. I know Sam, you voted no, but the reason we renewed it last time is because we didn't want to lose it for the town. And it's not about the Mad Hatter.
I thought it was for this year. I thought this for next year.
This for next year, yeah.
That's
Coming year. So I'm inclined, if the council hasn't changed its opinion, I would just say approve the motion that I made it. I don't see any reason to pull it separately.
No, I would agree. I don't see.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
I second.
All right, Councilmembers Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
No.
Giller?
Yes.
Lamy?
No.
Lexi?
Yes.
All right. The second is approved as is. All right, now we're going to go on to our ordinances. First one is Ordinance 8/2021, an ordinance of the Borough of Seabright amending and supplementing the Code of the Borough of Seabright, Chapter 16 Animals, Article 2 Cats. This essentially eliminates the requirement to have a cat license in the Borough of Seabright. So last year we had a license holder, so we're going to eliminate that from the ordinance. Would anyone like to make a motion to open a public hearing on Ordinance 8/2021?
I'll make that motion there.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Giller?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Alexi?
Yes.
All right, would anybody in the public like to be heard on this ordinance?
There's no one
All right,
here,
we're
so
done.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Giller?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Alexi?
Yes.
Would anyone like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 8/2021?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, Councilmember Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Giller?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Alexi?
Yes.
All right, ordinance 8/2021 has been adopted. On to ordinance 9/2021. an ordinance of the Borough Council of Seabright amending Chapter 130 Land Use of the Code of the Borough of Seabright to permit the operation of one Class 5 cannabis retail business within its geographical boundaries. So before I open the public hearing on this, or make a motion to, I believe based on what we discussed at the last public meeting we had, that the consensus will likely be to carry this to a future meeting and not approve it tonight as a permitted use at this point. But that being said, it's our understanding that a majority of the governing body is in favor of this, which not this time, just because of that we don't know enough about all the rules coming out from the state, so we need more time to research that. That being said, would anyone like to make a motion to open the public hearing 9/2020?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing now.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Birdsall,
Yes.
Booker,
Yes.
Catalano,
Yes.
Giller,
Yes.
Omni,
Yes.
Lexi.
Yes.
All right. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on ordinance 9/2021?
Anybody want to hear?
Yeah, I'll go.
Just state your name and.
All right, Marty Jabal, I live over at Chris's Landing. I saw what you posted about coming out tonight to voice my concern. A lot of other Monmouth County municipalities have voted that they did not want this in their region, and I would agree with them. I don't see a real positive to it. There's a lot of other things that this borough needs more, and taking up a space here, a commercial space, may not be a benefit. I've looked at other places where I've been traveling, and these dispensaries, although they serve a purpose, I don't think they serve a purpose really for our town. If we had every other amenity available to us here, maybe, but we don't. We don't even have a drugstore. We don't have a supermarket. We all have to travel for everything. So I just see this as just a real, it's probably more going to be a nuisance than it is going to be a benefit.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Would any of us like to be heard?
Yeah, Susie Marson. How much does the town, what does the town benefit? What's the tax break, or what's the money you get back from the cannabis industry? And do you know? Yeah.
I know approximately 2%.
2% of all sales. That goes to us.
Plus on top of fees that we charge too.
So a significant amount of money.
Right.
So it does seem like kind of benefit. Okay, thanks.
One.
Thanks, Susie.
Yep.
Anyone like to be heard?
Yeah, Joe Rowan, East New Street. Once again, along with other people's concern, other towns around us are voting no on this issue. Seabright, having been here since the 70s, has crawled up from where we were to where we are. And if we want to equate ourselves with an upper crust, if you would, I hate to say it like that, because we were here a long time ago, town, it would be a detriment to that progress. And on top of that, we do live in town. And I was here before Rory's was Rory's, and before the Mad Hatter was the Mad Hatter, as it stands. And you can't control the drunks and inebriated people on the streets at 3 in the morning now, and if you get them stoned, there's less of a chance. You come sit on my deck from 11 p.m. to 3 in the morning, on a weekend, Friday, Saturday night. It's ridiculous. And I'm sure the police chief would bear me out on that it's just out of control, and to allow people to get more intoxicated and on something that you can't, it's too long-armed, for my opinion. Thank you.
It's my understanding you're not allowed to go around and just smoke weed anywhere, even though it's going to be legal, correct?
We're doing it now.
Yeah, we are doing it now, but that has to be done dispensary, with or without.
Doing it on the carpet, the program.
This is public comment, it's not public debate. Mayor, if I could make 2 observations, just to sort of focus the conversation. I think one thing that you should realize is whether or not there's a cannabis retail store here is a completely separate issue from whether or not people will be using marijuana. Because the one thing that no municipality can prevent is having marijuana delivered to customers in Seabright by delivery services that are licensed elsewhere. And there will be delivery services that are licensed elsewhere. So that the subject of consumption in general is not really the issue. The second observation I make is that the council's discussion at the last workshop was really related to the fact that you mentioned a lot of towns are deciding to say no at this point. The reason why a lot of towns are deciding to say no, including some that initially wanted to say yes, including another town that I represent that was going to allow cultivation, is the reason that was discussed at the last workshop meeting, and that is no one knows what the regulations are going to be that this new state commission is going to promulgate. This is unlike a lot of other things where the local municipality has control. For example, alcohol beverage licenses. That statute gives a lot of control to municipalities. This statute gives no control to municipalities in terms of the regulations. The only decision you can make is whether or not you allow a licensee in the town, and if so, which license and how many. The state makes all the other decisions, and we don't know what those regulations are going to be. So we don't know what, you can't tell what a retail store is going to look like, or act like, or operate like at this point until we see those regulations. And unfortunately, the state put a time limit which forces municipalities to make a decision by August, but we're not going to know what those regulations are going to say by August. So when you say a lot of towns are acting, what they're doing is they're saying no, because if they don't by August, then they can't say no for the next 5 years. They're saying no, and they're saying, let's wait and see what those regulations look like, and then we can always go back and permit something. But if we're going to prohibit anything, it has to be done then. So that just kind of put it in context.
But if you said no, then you come back and say yes.
You come back and say yes.
But if you say yes now, you can't say no down the road.
Exactly, not for 5 years. So any license.
And they don't know what the rule's going to be then.
You don't know what the rules are. That's the big problem I think that local governments have.
That's crazy.
The big discussion we've
Yeah,
had.
we discussed this pretty good at the last workshop meeting, and really, in our zoning official also pointed out quite a few gaps in basically any guidance that we've had to even permit this to begin with. So, thanks for your comments, and Roger, thank you for your feedback also.
You're welcome. Mayor?
Is there any?
Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to go back to our previous meeting, because there was a lot of confusion about the 5-year rule. Can you opt in? Can you opt out? When I just want to make sure that our counsel, our attorney is clear in that if we prohibit it now because we don't have enough information, we reserve the right, if the council was so inclined, to revisit that at a later time, not necessarily having to wait 5 years to come back and look at it, because there was confusion on that. But I think you said in your memo that the lead municipality's position is that we would have the ability to revisit that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a critical point, because the way it appeared to be is that we were sort of boxed into a timeline and into a truncated sort of deliberation process that would have us making decisions without a full set of facts yet. So if I'm hearing you correctly, we have the right, if we decided to say no for now, when the rules, the regs came out, etc., and we knew what it was going to be and what powers we had and all of that, we could come back to it. Is that your position?
At any time.
Okay.
And thanks, Jeff. Is there anything else you'd like to be heard tonight on this ordinance?
Chris.
Right, it's Chris Dobson again, 9 Church Street in Seabright. I just think that Seabright has been through a lot. We clawed our way back after Sandy. We have become a beautiful town, a nice town. Everybody wants to live here. You can tell that by the houses being on the market for 3 hours and being sold. I just think it would bring the town down. Everybody would be coming in here to buy cannabis. I don't agree that we should have a store in town, and that is my feeling. We have a great town now. Why ruin it? And I think it will.
One point of clarification, if I could, Mayor, so that, and again, it would appear to me that we're sort of, I can't speak for the council members, but, I'm in favor of buying us some time. I think that makes some sense. But I want to make sure the public understands what the intent of those who are looking at this, what the intent is to potentially look at what we call a grab and go option, which means no consumption, there's no food and drink at the establishment. It literally is you go in, you buy you make your purchase, and you leave, and you take it home. There's no consumption area, there's no seating, there's no food and drink. It's grab and go. You can get some weed over there, but it's a grab and go model. Now that is very different than other towns may decide to handle it very differently and have a lot out in the open and all that. This literally would be go in, you make your purchase, and you leave. You don't go outside and smoke, you leave. Now that's an important clarification. Again, I don't think that we're there yet, but that's just so the public understands. There are various classes of cannabis activity. And what we're talking about is that retail only, grab and go, can't smoke it there, you take it and you go home or go back to your town or whatever. So that's something to point out. That's all.
Thanks, Jeff.
Can I continue?
Thanks for your comment, Chris.
Okay. What if you're going to Seabright? You take it back to your town, Seabright. What if you go across to the beach and you smoke on the beach?
Well, that's.
Well, as I stated, we can't stop the consumption. People can get a delivery to the beach.
No, they cannot. So we would be actually smoking is not. You can't smoke on the beach, Chris. That's actually against state law, and we are actually going to modify our own code to make it clear that even when cannabis is legal, you can't smoke on the beach. And as Roger pointed out, you're going to be able to get it delivered into town regardless of whether we have a shop or not, but you're not going to be able to smoke it on the beach.
Okay, apparently there are different class stores. Jeff, is that right?
Well, what I was saying, and the council can, Mr. Bachman can speak more definitively on it, but there are 5 or 6 different classes, cultivation, retail, and a bunch of other sort of classes. What we're talking about here, as far as we discussed amongst the council, is primarily, only the retail option, the grab and go option, is all that's even been discussed here.
Yeah, we're not even allowing delivery services to set up shop.
So
you couldn't run a delivery service out of your house.
Okay.
So Chris, the 6 classes since you're asking, it's in the ordinance, are class 1 is a cannabis cultivator.
Right.
That's not even under discussion here. The second class 2 is a cannabis manufacturer, we're not even discussing that. Class 3 is a cannabis wholesaler license, again, we're not discussing that. Class 4 is a cannabis distributor license, we're not dealing with that. Class 5 is a cannabis retailer. That's the one we're talking about, is class 5. And then class 6 is a cannabis delivery license, which we're not allowed to prohibit, right? We can stop the actual delivery service being in our town, but we can't stop someone else from delivering into our town.
Right.
Because it's legal. So if someone wants to order Domino's cannabis, there's nothing we can do about it.
The first 4 classes are all industrial zone.
Right.
So we don't have an industrial zone in Seabright, so it's not even up for discussion in Seabright. Right.
The discussion about the consumption, it's not just smoke. I mean, there's gummies, there's brownies, there's all that sort of stuff. So that stuff's going to wind up on the beach. Okay? I mean, yeah, it could be there anyway. I agree with you.
Well, like Roger said, we can't stop it.
No, and I don't expect somebody to be standing there trying to, frisk people, seeing what they got. That's not what we're going for. But, at this point, when we're looking at this, I mean, other than the money, I don't see a real positive to this. We travel, like I said, we travel for almost everything else in this town.
Well, I mean, it came up a couple times regarding the number of alcohol or bars in the area and the issues that we have with alcohol consumption in town already and that type of thing. If you think about it, if you think about it in this sense, this would be the only business in this town that we actually make money off of. It would be the only business that we make money off of. Now, granted, it's still, you do have the inebriation problem, but I know, I've known people that are stoners and I've known people that are drunk.
Right.
And I tell you this much,
I'd rather have the
stoners than the drunk.
I agree with you. You know, but we also make money off of cell tower. We make money off of taxes. We make money off of a lot of things. That doesn't mean we need to make money off of everything.
I understand that. My other conversation that we had with the rest of the council, one of my comments was, the state is only going to issue a set number of licenses. So the sooner you get in front of the 8 ball, essentially, the more chance you have of actually getting one of those licenses. Now, granted, we could approve this tonight and say we want a license. There's no guarantee that we're going to get a license, that we're going to get a licensed distributor or a retail shop here. There's absolutely no guarantee. We might have somebody that, first of all, the other thing is, not too many storefronts in town.
That's true.
You know, I mean, I can think of maybe 1, maybe 2 that are on the fence where, you know, something might come in. There's no guarantee that, you know, a license, somebody might, first of all, it's probably going to take over a year to get a license from the state. Then, once they get the license, there's no guarantee there's going to be a storefront available for them to actually open up a store in Seabury. So, the longer that we postpone it, other towns around us may jump on that bandwagon, which is fine, but then they're taking our money, our taxpayer money, which 75% of our taxpayers did vote yes on this. They did approve this on the last election. So they're taking our taxpayers' money and moving it to their town and making 2% profit on that margin. So think about that.
No, I understand what you're
let's say, for instance, Highlands, and they were on the fence about it. They worked with it, so don't say yes. They have since said no. But if they get a license, then you know they're going to be the only game in town if they have to get one.
And I think there's a difference between voting yes on that ballot question. Then my suggestion might be vote no now as the council. Then let us put it to a referendum for us in town and let the people who live here say, do we want something in town or not? That's different than saying statewide what we should do.
And Marty, just so you know, I had suggested at the workshop, we actually have a ordinance that's going to follow this ordinance to ban it.
Okay.
Which we're actually going to introduce tonight.
Okay.
So I think that's the route that we're headed down.
Okay.
And again, what that allows us to do, and that can be a permanent ban, we decide that's what it's going to be, once we revisit it, once we know more. But it buys us time.
Yeah, if we don't want to do, I don't want to do anything until I know what the regulations are.
Oh,
I don't think we should be talking about it until we know what the regulations are. That's my personal opinion.
I would just, sorry, I just wanted to.
I
was just wondering if anybody.
Would anyone else like to be heard on this ordinance?
Yeah.
Susie Markson.
I'm just wondering if anybody could tell me, like in detail, and it could be anybody, what's the difference between a grab-and-go liquor store and a grab-and-go cannabis shop? I mean, I've traveled, I've seen them, so I'd like to know, literally, what would you rather have? Somebody get a bottle of vodka and drink it in their house, or in Seabright, or somebody get weed and smoke it in their house? I just want to know the difference between a liquor store and a cannabis shop.
Susie, the honest answer is we don't know the answer because we don't know what the regulations are.
But we do know.
We don't know.
We kind of do. If you're against a cannabis store in town, the element that brings, you should be against the liquor store too. I just don't see the difference.
Here's the difference. Practically every town has a liquor store.
Yeah.
This isn't about a Seabrighter going and buying cannabis and taking it home as opposed to a liquor and taking it home. This is about everybody else that doesn't have a cannabis store in their town coming, right?
This is everybody that doesn't have a liquor store in their town coming. If there's a liquor store like that, you can go in and consume adult substances, whatever. There is no difference between that and a cannabis store. I think it's good. The grab-and-go aspect, I'm not trying to have a weekend in the center of town. Nobody wants that. But if you're talking about, this is like a clean shop. You walk in, you buy your product, you leave. I'm sorry. I was bartending for 15 years. We know what alcohol does. We know what he says to you. If you're against one, you're going to be against both. Just because alcohol has been legal for, since Prohibition ended, doesn't mean it's okay. There's reasons that cannabis wasn't too. And I think that possibly people are biased against it for various reasons that may or may not exist, and this sort of cultural bias about what the element it does bring to town. And I get that. I have family members, I have good friends that get that too. But I think if you do the research and the history on this problem, you're gonna find that personally, like having a cannabis store, I would rather have that than a liquor store in my town at this point. When I see people walking up and down the street, can you tell who's drunk and can you tell who's stoned? That's all.
You live in a very, very calm town.
Thank you, I guess.
Anybody else?
Joe Williams, New Street. In your discussion amongst yourselves as a borough council, could you put consideration and research into how a cannabis store may affect property values in the downtown area? Because if you live over there or over there, it doesn't matter if you want a bit, but if you live in these 6 blocks, it may, and that's something I think if we're going to referendum it, we should be advised of that information. I know it's down the road.
That's a legitimate point.
On the front edge. And then if we do not approve it, then you're losing your 2%. Just charge $1 more for every car, you make $1 zillion, and nobody would care. You can charge $10 more for every car, and nobody would care. They pay anyway.
And we won't care, we live here. So.
Well, the people who are paying for it wouldn't care.
No, I mean, but that's there's a lot of taxes like that. Your hotel taxes, your airline, the taxes. They don't care about what they are for. They're trying to lower the tax rate in town.
Right. And charge a couple dollars more for each car is parked in the lot.
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry. I know you're at a disadvantage up there, so it's like the voice of God.
It was Brian.
Anyone have any comments?
One more.
All right.
No, we have another one, Mayor. Go ahead.
Is it okay to stand right here?
Yeah.
Let me put my back to you, Chief. I have a little bit of some notes.
Can we just need your name and address?
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm going to be reading through some notes to keep this as quick as possible. My name is Steve Maynard. I'm one of your Romson residents. I spend most of my free time here in this place that I love so much. I'm here to comment on Ordinance 092021, the cannabis ordinance. I commend the council for even considering this without banning right away. As someone mentioned, 76% of the people in town who voted one way or the other did vote to legalize cannabis. Didn't mean they voted to have a shop in town, but they did vote to legalize it. The ordinance, as it is written, would allow for one highly regulated, safe, and responsible dispensary in town. I understand that the council is also considering adopting parts of Freehold Borough's ordinance, which restricts it. Even though there's a little bit of unknown about what the state commission will do, there is Freehold Borough, for example, restricted it to the time it can be open, etc. And as someone else mentioned, this would be an opportunity for the borough to implement the 2% tax, which could be a tremendous amount of money. I'm afraid to say this now, but I do plan on applying, if it's passed, for a micro cannabis dispensary license, which most people don't know about. It would be, in my opinion, a perfect fit for the town because it would be limited in the size, in the amount of employees, it's limited to 10, it's limited to 2,500 square feet, for example, and it would be limited in the amount of products that are going to be sold. So it would be restricted in that regard and be very small. Now, I keep saying someone, I don't remember her name, someone mentioned that just if the borough supports it, doesn't mean that the state commission will support it, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, which is known as the CRC. So even if the town supports it, the CRC has to support it. And there are certain things that the CRC looks for. A micro-dispensary has a better chance of obtaining a license. Excuse me. And for someone to apply for a micro license, the person has to live in the borough or in a neighboring town. So it kind of keeps it a little more personal. Or personal, I should say. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. One of the things that the state commission looks for in these licenses is it's very big on racial diversity and social equity in business. It has to be equitable. And that's in the law itself, and also the CRC has mentioned this many times. Now, I'll briefly speak about, I promise to be responsible, I'm a potential applicant, so this is really what an applicant would look like. I'm just going to go to my next screen. Thank you. So essentially, if this were allowed, I would be applying for the micro license I mentioned, the scaled license. It's restricted with my partner who I lived with in Rumsden of 12 years, Paul. He happens to be Asian, and the reason that's important is because the state commission really wants wants someone with a diverse applicant. That's just in the law. So we would have a higher chance in that regard. He happens to also be a well-respected dentist with multiple practices and has a DEA license, and runs a meticulous practice. We're meticulous on, the gentleman mentioned, I have allergies, I'm sorry. The gentleman mentioned about living in a higher end area. We get it. We live in Rumsden. We do everything we can working in a construction project right now to make everything beautiful and meticulous. And that's essentially how the store would look. It's not what people think about people smoking and raging out and all this nonsense. I would never allow it to begin with, but a lot of those things are against the law. But I lost my place. Essentially, like, if we were allowed to have a cannabis dispensary here and our application was selected, it would be small, it would look beautiful, it would be highly regulated, and you wouldn't even notice there would be no lines. We wouldn't allow long and reasonable lines. We would coordinate with a dispensary service, for example, a delivery service that's one of the license types, and Mr. Lecter mentioned, if we had to keep people from coming in. But I thought about this over the weekend. The people who will be coming are the people who are already here. 11,000 people, that's from Monmouth Beach, Seabright, Fairhaven, Rumsden, Little Silver, voted yes. A lot of these people come here to the beach clubs, to the bars and restaurants. The target would be people who are already here. And the extent that it would bring people from areas that someone mentioned, I think, about maybe certain areas, the state will be riddled with these things in those areas. I think Long Branch, or West Long Branch, I'm sorry, I don't recall, one of the Long Branches will have cannabis. I think one of the Highlands will have cannabis. I don't think it would create this need for people to come racing into Seabright from out of town. I just don't see it. I'm almost done. You know, I'll mention this too. If we were to apply, if this were legalized in town, and we applied and were granted a license, you know, it would be what the people wanted. It would look beautiful, like a beach theme. We would work with the police department if the police department wanted to work with us to make it as safe as possible. There's a lot of studies actually that show that neighborhoods that have cannabis dispensaries are actually a little bit safer because of the level of security. There's bank security, there's cameras, there's sometimes armed security. I'm not focusing on it. There's sometimes armed security as well, and it makes it, there's studies out of California to that effect. There was something said about, I think I already mentioned about people coming from out of town. So I mentioned it would be people who are already coming here, and who are 21, so 21 or over, of course. I want to state that. No one who is under 21 will be permitted in the store. So the council mentioned like a grab and go type of establishment. It would be very like a small operation where people can order maybe on the phone. They would come. You know, I keep thinking about my mother. I have to just mention my mother, who was fighting a terminal illness, used cannabis in shame. You know, it's not this. It shouldn't have that shit. It was the only thing that revealed it. So it's not. People think this 1930s propaganda where people are like, reefer madness. That's really I wish because you would know how we live our life and not we would never allow that. It wouldn't happen. So, you know, I think I got most of the points. So this is the most important one. If the council votes to put it off, you're killing it forever. Not forever, but you're going to get rid of all the candidates who would be the best. No one's going to wait around. It's already a risk. If you passed it, someone would have to buy or rent property in town with just a chance of the state commission giving a license. So if the town is not going to meet the August 21st deadline, I don't see who would be sticking around. You don't want someone coming from out of town. Well, from what I've heard, you don't want someone coming from a larger company or out of town who's trying to take advantage of the residents, for sure.
You're from
I know, but it's an account. Only fine.
Doesn't matter.
That's true. I think a lot of business owners don't.
What's put in your town?
What's that?
What's put in your town?
Our town, is going to panic.
Good for you, not good for us.
Yeah, I think it would be. I'll say one thing. I understand completely. I just
So it's not happening.
Yeah, no,
We're not going to have back and forth, and with respect to the gentleman, I think you've made your point. And I think that we have a loosely enforced time limit, and I think I'll allow the mayor to.
Oh, was that my time? I have one more thing.
No, you don't.
We appreciate your time.
Okay, all right. I can't say one more sentence. May I have permission to say one more sentence?
Is there anyone else like to hear tonight on ordinance 9/2021?
Mayor, may I say one more sentence?
Just say it.
If it's not passed, everybody who's here, who lives here and visits here, who wants it, they're gonna get it from the towns who have the delivery license. They're getting it anyway, Seabright will get $0. But that's all, I'm a little nervous, so thank you for letting me get those points out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
All right, is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Hi, this is Sam Rutherford. I'm a cannabis attorney. I'm here in support of local groups that have expressed interest in the area. I'm only going to have very few comments, just a few comments, just to reiterate the idea that the local government actually does have quite a bit of control that's given by the CRC just in the plain statute as it is, and that you can craft your ordinance specifically with respect to the needs of the town. Just in terms of my experience, an attorney, I worked with a client in the town of Ewing to help them secure a license for Justice Grown in 2018 in Ewing, with the mayor there. And they worked under a system where you can license it and you can also work with a 2% tax fee, but there's also, in your licensing, you have a great latitude in terms of what you can require from the applicants. And so, as we did here in New Jersey and that they've done in other states, they've worked with things called host community agreements, where the operator is, selected by the town. You can create a process where you can allow the group that you're most comfortable with, that you can bring it to the committee in terms of voting on who you may want to do this in town. And then you're able to come to an agreement which will outline their requirements. But under these community agreements, which are akin to cell towers or akin to wind farms, anything that is out of the ordinary in terms of the change and the use that brings a so-called burden on the town, is an area where of course your town attorneys can look at this, which allows you to enter into these special agreements, which allow you to really restrict the use to exactly the way that the town sees it, taking place in the town. So whether that's full-time security, whether that's a feed directly to the police department, whether that's restricting the hours, time, place, and manner, whether they're beyond the tax money that comes in, that there is responsibilities on the group to deal with matters of mutual interest with nonprofits, non-governmental organizations. Any burden that's created creates a legal counterbalance that allows you to work out an agreement, so that all the fears or concerns that some of the community members might have can be addressed. In all the areas that come up. But certainly, just to reiterate what Stephen has said and what some of the other folks have said, the amount of local control actually, in my reading of this, is quite expansive. And if you look at some of the work that's been done on ordinances throughout the state, some places like Bayonne have created their own entire intricate licensing scheme, which involves residents only, or different sorts of tiebreakers in terms of there's a conflict and how many people can come in. So the ability to pass it and then to maybe amend such that it allows you to manage the process fully is something to consider. Whether or not there's time to ban it and then reconsider it in the period between, say, the 21st of August and an application period that could be 30 days later. That's a question, for the council. There would be concern if there was a ban and then the community came back and approved at a time after an application period closed, because then the opportunity would be missed. But is there an ability to ban and to allow once the community has all their ducks in a row prior to that application process? That is, that's frankly doable. It's not something that that somebody that works in industry is advocating necessarily, but it does give you a little gap. But otherwise, the amount of control that you have is significant in terms of the parties, time, the placement, and the context in which the business would operate. So.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to hear tonight?
Yeah, Reed Murphy. Reed?
I'm neutral on this, because I'm dry on everything, but the benefit to this town will be revenue. And you can all say, we don't need any more revenue. That's horse hockey. I've worked 30 years trying to keep this town afloat. We shit revenue, and that's what we have. We've got good revenue coming in now from the beach, from the parking lot. A small retail business, I don't think is gonna hurt us. This isn't like, as they said, reefer madness. It's a retail company coming in to open up. I prefer it being local. Somebody who could smack around a little bit. And the other thing, I think it's going to be inobtrusive. I truly believe that. I think it's going to be somebody will come in, buy a bunch of joints and go their way. But anything you can do to help the retail in this town, you want somebody coming in here in the winter. We've all lived through winters here, where there's a hot dog sold every 2 weeks, and that's the retail business in Seabright in the winter. So there's a lot to be thought of here. As far as cannabis itself, it doesn't bother me. I've never seen a fight break out at pot parties. What people want to do with their own time and their own volition, let them be. If we can sign them or let them have a place to purchase. I'm not against that. I think it'd be good for you.
Thanks, Reed.
Thanks, Brian.
Would anyone like to be heard on ordinance 9/2021? I did get a root call today from a resident of Sunrise. I asked to call in tonight, but she didn't want to. She just basically called me to voice her disapproval of this Class 5 cannabis. That's what I said.
Yeah.
All right.
Mayor, I'll also say that, I posted this online and there really wasn't much of a response. I was kind of surprised by that. And there's not a lot of people here tonight either, which also surprises me, even though we put it out there, it's on the community billboard. I did receive one call today also, Mayor, who was very much against this. So I just wanted to put that on record. Again, they didn't want to call in tonight, but they were very much against it. So.
Would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All right. Mr. Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Gillard?
Yes.
Dominic?
Yes.
Lexi?
Yes.
All right, so I believe we're going to make a motion to carry ordinance 9/2021. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Well, let me ask a question there. I think we're already agreed that this particular ordinance, either way, we're not going to implement because it has a clause in it that we would need to go back and amend, which we would have to reintroduce a new ordinance anyway. I think that was what we talked about at the last workshop. But we're not proceeding with this ordinance, even if we decide ultimately to go ahead with it. So what's the point of tabling it?
No, I think you're right, Mark, and I think that if I'm, and we should hold the council. But
Yeah.
I think that, you know, we're not ready to move this forward. And and with the understanding, as Roger said, that if we do say no, quote unquote, for now, that we have the right, if we get more information, to be able to make a determination at some point down the road, you know, the market conditions notwithstanding, that we would have the ability to go do that.
Right, and there have been towns which originally went ahead and outlawed these facilities, then have to go ahead and re-outlaw the facilities because the law changed when the constitutional amendment went through. And for all we know, if we did adopt this tonight and the regulations go in and something in this ordinance is against the regulations that that they put into effect, we would have to adopt a new ordinance anyway.
Well, that's the whole point. I don't really think that is an issue. If it's a moving ball that we need to keep tweaking, then I'm okay with it. I don't necessarily think that you should just assume that everyone is just ready to push this off.
I agree with Sam. I think we should vote on this as it is right now amongst council. If the vote is usually, you know, if the vote passes, then it's passed, and we don't have to vote on the other one. If it doesn't pass, then we move on one to the end.
I'll make a motion to deny the ordinance. Based upon what we said earlier, that I'm not comfortable voting on any ordinance that I don't know what the regulations governing that use.
My point is, if we vote on it as is, we can always polish it.
I don't know that.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? All right, so you have a motion.
Now, which motion, carry or motion to deny?
This is a motion to deny.
Motion to deny.
Okay. Is there a second?
Jack second.
Shaquille.
All right. So for a motion to deny ordinance 9/2021, Councilmember Birdsall?
No.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
No.
Bueller?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Lexstein?
Yes.
All right, I believe it was successfully denied, although confusing. Sorry. All right, so we'll go on to the next ordinance, 10/2021, an ordinance of the Borough of Seabright amending and supplementing Chapter 146 nuisances of the Code of the Borough of Seabright to add thereto a new Article 3, smoking regulations. And we discussed this earlier. Essentially, this is at the local level saying you can't smoke at the beaches and along the seawall and entranceways and go forward. So with that being said, anyone like to make a motion to introduce ordinance 10/21?
I'll make that motion there.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Bueller?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 10/2021 has been introduced. On to the next ordinance and back to this category, ordinance 11/2021, an ordinance of the Borough Council of the Borough, an ordinance of the Borough Council of Seabright amending Chapter 130 land use of the Code of the Borough of Seabright to prohibit the operation of all classes of cannabis establishments within its geographical boundaries and the Borough of Seabright. Would anyone like to make a motion to introduce ordinance 11/2021?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Councilmembers Birdsall?
No.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
No.
Bueller?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Lexi?
Yes.
All right, ordinance 11/2021 has been introduced. On to new business. First up is the voucher in the amount of $447,940.90. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this voucher list?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Birdsall?
Yes.
Birdsall?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Bueller? Lamy?
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
And Lexi?
Yes.
All right, that was approved. On to Mayor and Council Committee comments. Is there anybody on the governing body who would like to speak as it relates to their committees?
Yeah, Mayor, I have 3 items. The first came up out of the last Special Events Committee. Perspirometry last year utilized what is currently the basketball court right next door to Borough Hall to do exercises because, of course, they weren't allowed within the building. They came to the Special Events Committee. They would like to do it again, except more limited hours. Susan, do you remember what the hours were?
It was twice a week.
Oh, you're Perspirometry.
Here I am.
Yeah, go ahead.
And my wife and I. Perspirometry. Sorry, she's not here. Yeah, sorry, I lost my voice. I'm not sick. I was screaming in class. People were being lazy. And I'm sorry, this is not as exciting as the cannabis ordinance. But yeah, we were hoping maybe just for Mondays and Thursdays, 9:30 to 10:30. However, we could do 9:30 to 10:15. Last year, it was a real lifesaver because we were closed, and I believe we had classes Monday through Friday. And I think we did 7:30 through 10.
What are the hours you're looking for to do this?
We're just looking for Monday and Thursday, 9:30 to 10:30. I know it's a basketball court now, so I don't want to. I love basketball; it's my favorite sport. I wish I was taller, but I don't want to impede on anyone who wants to play. I know it's a public court. We were just, people seem to enjoy it. People seem to enjoy watching all the women do it. No one got, uncomfortable. But,
so what the question was that came up is, unlike last year where we were helping out a business that literally died because they could not be inside, the question came, do we want to, they would have exclusivity under the proposal on Mondays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:30. And this council has been establishing a bid process for when we make something exclusive to a place that's taking a public amenity. And did council want to do this as a bid process, which is what we've been doing with other things, or did we want to allow Perspirometry to just go ahead and operate from 9:30 to 10:30?
We could do 9:30 to 10:15, if that.
I don't think 15 minutes is enough. but that's something the council will have to decide.
Personally, I think if we're going for anything else, we should continue the same process.
With the bids?
I was going to ask Robert's opinion whether or not it's within our purview to be able to do a bid, or is it better public practice, policy practice to put it out?
Policy practice, if it's going to be an exclusive use, then it should be subject to bid.
Yeah, I mean, clearly no one can play basketball from Monday to Thursday, 9:30 to 10:30. It would be very awkward. Not dangerous. So if that's the consensus, and I tend to agree, can Chris, can you put out the bids on that? Is that how, or do we have to vote on it at the next meeting to put out the bids?
Yes,
I can do it right now, right? Make a motion to put out the bids? Sure. I'll make a motion to put out bids for that with the return date of, can we get them back by our next meeting? 1 month. But we're not going to have a meeting until the next meeting anyway, so.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it. Good.
All right, Berthold?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Fallon?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Monty?
Yes.
Lexi?
Yes.
All right, it's really well. That was an interesting, committee update. Anything else?
No, I'm not done. I had 3 things. So Chris, just make sure Personality obviously gets the bid package when you have it together. So
well, that was my next question. Not savvy with all the terms here. What does this mean exactly?
That's going to go out for public bid. We're going to advertise on the website that there is a public bid available to utilize the basketball court in the morning hours from 9:30 to 10:30.
Just Monday and Thursday.
just Monday and Thursday, yes.
Yeah, most likely this will be a formality, but as our attorney suggested, we just have to do it.
And you'll be told that you have to make a bid of how much you want to bid, and then theoretically you get the highest bidder for the position, and then you do get exclusivity at that point. Okay, and we've done that for everything. It's like yoga, basically everything we've done is.
Yeah.
All right, second thing was, and I'm going to turn to Chris on this, the Teeter House. Can you just, because I didn't have time to really, that just came in today.
It was a request to special events, we just got it on Friday, and the event is next week. So it came in after our last meeting. They want to have a party by the volleyball nets for about 30 people. And they said they would be ordering pizza from Seabright Pizza. And it's for the Teeter House, it would be their charitable organization. And they would, it would be 3 to 5.
On what day?
I think it's June 24th. And so you have to decide if you want to,
3 to 5.
they would be required to get beach badges and all that kind of stuff.
Don, I see Don Klein here. Do you have any problems with that?
No.
From a beach perspective?
I think they had actually coordinated with the volleyball league also to make sure that they weren't taking up any of their time.
Yeah, that was our next question. Yeah.
I think with the time frame that they had, communicated, it was fine.
So underneath the special events ordinance, if an application comes in that the special events committee is not going to meet in time of year, which this would be that case, the council does have a right to grant a special events permit. And this is clearly a special event. I personally don't have a problem with it. So everybody okay?
And everybody's okay with not having to get badges.
Don, no, they don't need badges for the volleyball.
If they're exclusive use of the volleyball court, in this case, if you guys approved it, we wouldn't need to charge them entry unless you guys want it.
Just for this one, right?
And that's what we do for normal volleyball, right? They don't. When we
Normal
have
volleyball, they have the bid and they operate outside of the scope of hours that we charge.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the special event. I'm sorry, what?
There's a resolution in front of you.
Oh, did you? Oh, we have it. All right, I didn't see it, Chris. Thank you. So, we have, what's the number of the resolution?
It will be 131.
131? All right, so council, thank you, Chris. That's why you're the best person in the entire meeting. I'll make a motion to introduce and pass resolution number 131, 2021.
I'll second that.
All right, Councilmember Berthel?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Penelon?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Lexi?
Yes. And then, Mayor, the last and final thing I have, I was approached by the firemen. They're currently, and they talked about this at the workshop. They're currently engaged in their raffle for the support drive. And what was asked of me is whether the council would allow the firemen to sell raffle tickets up along the boardwalk. Because they felt like that would be a good way to get out in the public and be seen.
Yeah, with Rocky.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either.
Is there a need for formal approval?
They don't want. I think the firemen don't want to do it without our approval. I think if anyone else is up there selling, the town would probably tell them you can't be here selling raffle tickets. So yeah, I guess they do.
Well, they asked us as a courtesy then, and unless anybody disagrees.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve that unless someone disagrees.
I'll second that. I have no problem with that.
Roll call.
Councilmember Burgess?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Penelon?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Lamy?
Yes.
Lexi?
Yes. All right. I'll let the fire chief know that we approve that request. Thank you. And Mayor, that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Mark. Anyone else have a comment?
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple of things.
All right, Jen.
I talked to the court administrator today. Tomorrow will be the first day that the court office, which is now located on the former Fort Monmouth property, tomorrow's the first day the court office will be open to the public. You have to ring a buzzer and come in one at a time. But, however, the court sessions, the actual court meetings, are still restricted to Zoom. They need another month to get the sound system set up, et cetera, et cetera. But Overall, the staff seems to be pleased with the way things are going. And,
Jack, do you know if they're still going to be in Shrewsbury or they're moving to?
no,
They're at Fort Myers, so they're actually going to be in there, okay,
Yes.
good. I'm talking about the port itself.
Yes.
The port's going to be at Fort Myers, great.
They, I went to the last one, they have a little conference room, and just a couple of attorneys and that sort of thing. Everything's on the phone and talking, it's an involved process, so but they, just a funny little, they had a contractor doing all the electronics, but another company bought out the contractor, and the state will not allow them to sign off on the contract until the merger is completed.
Sounds like it's a very municipal court.
Yeah. So anyway, they're working on that. Second thing, this Friday we'll have a safety meeting with the GIF, and Dominic will be here, and we'll hold it here. This will be the first time we have it in open session. If anybody's interested, have any comments, let me know. And again, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock when?
Friday.
9 o'clock
This Friday.
Okay.
And third and final thing I have is just if you happen to look in the current issue of the Municipal League, the magazine, the cover, the big story is down at the shore, how Monmouth County is opening up for summer tourists. It's all unknown. And the lead article is giving a picture of Seabright Beach. So it's very nice. Worth reading. Brief, but worth reading. That's all I have there.
All right, Jack, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Anyone else think we have any comments? Anyone else from council? Great. I guess a wrap. And I will state progress myself. We do have one item for executive session. So essentially, we will go into executive session once we set off this, and we won't be coming back. So this is the end of the public meeting, essentially, from here. But on the agenda. So with that being said, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
I'm never going to take it.
I think, did anybody second that? I did. All in favor?